most people are on most people are using the dating apps to date. So it's going to become more popular and it's going to be more commonplace, which it is now. But putting the dating to the side, when you have the single parents who are trying to date, but they're still trying to maintain their career, which is going to finance all of this, right? Which is going to finance their lifestyle, finance their children. Do you see them having the same amount of difficulty or similar difficulty in their jobs that they're having in their dating life as well?
Possibly if the person isn't necessarily working, which for me would have been a red flag, would have been like, well, no, because I've got a kid, I'm on my own. There's no way I not even want to pay for you because you're not a priority in my life, if you know what I mean. Obviously, something like a coffee and that, but going forward, how are you meant to, because bear in mind, I was always looking for the marriage, the long-term thing, even when I was broken up with someone, even when I was a single mom, my end goal has been that long-term relationship. So, you're always thinking of that down the line. So people didn't have jobs or that, not interested. And it sounds really, really horrible because I'd had depression as well. If people were messaging me and they had it, I wouldn't go anywhere near them because I had been through it and it was difficult. There was no way I could support someone with mental health problems and bring up a child. And because that would have a massive effect on your life as well. So, but it would be really difficult to do to work. You're building your career and focusing on the dating world, especially if they're not a nice person or they're not working themselves, or again, they're not understanding that, yeah, you're working and then you're coming home and sorting your kid out, and then you might be too tired to go out on a date or whatever. Or maybe you want to stay in or whatever. It's understanding that it's not just a job. Like I said, when you're a parent, you never switch off, do you? So, your kid could have got up in the night, or, you're up from 5, 6 in the morning with them. You've got to sort them out before you even go into work. And as soon as you get home from work, the first thing you do is get them from childcare. And then you've got them until bedtime, and then you want to just go to bed yourself, basically.
Do you think it's difficult for some people to establish that boundary and that preference and hold it while dating?
I think if people didn't necessarily have kids, they would, because unless you've had it and unless you're a hands-on parent, you wouldn't know basically. And especially when they get, it's not so bad when they get older, like 5, 6, 7, but when they're like younger, 3, 4, 2, it's absolutely knackering having when they're that age and you're on your own with them, and even if you're not on your own with them, that's such a difficult and hard age as well. So yeah, yeah.
I look at it as some people will establish what they want and they don't maintain it, right? So I'll give you an example. So they'll say that I want to date with the intention of a long-term relationship. I don't want to play any games. I want to do this. But then sometimes what happens is they find themselves caught up in those situations, and then they become unfortunately comfortable in it. So it's one person after another, and now they lost their ideals and their goals because they've haven't been able to be firm in it and say no, this is what I want. And I wonder how much of that comes down to, as you mentioned, desperation and not being healed, because when you're desperate, bad things usually follow. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's like you attract the energy around you, isn't it? So it's if you're negative, you attract it because that's all you're thinking about. So you don't see any of the positive because you're not thinking about it. So you're naturally going to be attracting all that negativity because everything around you is negative. So you're just assuming, oh, it's negative, it's going to happen, and it does happen because we attract that basically. So if you're just thinking, oh, I don't want another person like this, or are settle for someone if they're half decent, that's still, attracting negativity because we're not focusing on the positive. So we're not focusing on that positivity around us and that positive energy to come to us.
How were you able to find that and make it work in your own life?
So, like I said, for me, it was just that, like that epiphany, that moment when my son was a baby, and I'd been on dates, and it was just like, this isn't. I don't need it. It was just like that light bulb moment. It was just like, well, I thought I needed it, but I actually didn't. And then, like I said, it was a couple of years then before I even went back on it, and I was quite happy. Obviously, there's times where you feel, oh, it would be nice, but never enough to actually take action and do it because clearly didn't want it at that time.
Did you ever experience loneliness or being alone? And if so, how did you handle that?
Um, Obviously you do a lot when you've got a baby and a young child. They're taking up a lot of the time. It's mainly for things like when, like, say you went out and about. So if like you went on a trip or something, it would just be you and you're having to do everything. So it was more in those situations, or like say then in the evenings, although it would be nice, sometimes you'd think, oh, it'd be nice to have someone to sit and watch a telly with. Sometimes you'd be too tired and you think, I'm glad there's no one here because I just don't want to talk to anyone. I just want 5 minutes to myself, and I don't want to even have to think of having a conversation or anything. I just want to sit in my pajamas and fall asleep at 8:30 without having to worry about trying to talk to someone or thinking of someone else as such.